Eyes up here, human. What happened next got a bit too hot. Foreign Elements Chief Engineer Mira Kwan wiped perspiration from her brow as she rushed through the curved corridors of Nexus 7. The station's environmental controls were malfunctioning again, sending temperatures soaring in the diplomatic wing, exactly where the Ceralian delegation was due to arrive. Perfect timing, she muttered, adjusting her toolkit. The Ceralians were notoriously sensitive to heat, and this meeting was already fraught with tension over mining rights in the Epsilon sector. As she rounded the corner to the reception chamber, Mira collided with something solid yet yielding. Her toolkit clattered to the floor, tools scattering across the polished surface. "I apologize for the obstruction," came a melodic voice that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies. Simultaneously, Mira looked up and up further into the most unusual eyes she'd ever seen. They were deep violet with flecks of silver that seemed to swirl like cosmic dust. The being before her stood nearly 7 feet tall, with skin the color of twilight amethyst, iridescent under the station lights. "No harm done," Mira replied, crouching to gather her tools. The Ceralian knelt beside her, long fingers gracefully collecting screwdrivers and calibrators. "You are the one who maintains this habitat," the alien observed. "Not a question but a statement. Chief Engineer Mira Kwan," she confirmed, extending her hand automatically before remembering Ceralians didn't shake hands. She awkwardly withdrew it. The alien's mouth curved slightly. "I am Zalix, diplomatic envoy of Ceralia. Your gesture, it indicates friendship among humans, correct?" "It does. Sorry for the confusion." "No confusion. Merely cultural variation." Zalix extended their hand in imitation of her movement. When their hands met, Mira felt a slight electric tingle. Ceralian biology included mild bioelectric currents, she recalled from xenobiology briefings. What the briefings hadn't mentioned was how that might feel against human skin, like champagne bubbles and static electricity. "Your thermal regulation systems appear compromised," Zalix noted, glancing at the vents overhead. "I'm here to fix that before your delegation arrives." "I am the delegation," Zalix replied. "The council sent only me," Mira blinked in surprise. "That's unusual, as is your direct gaze," Zalix commented. "On Ceralia, such prolonged eye contact indicates either challenge or intimate interest." Heat flooded Mira's cheeks. "On Earth, it's just polite attention," she explained, though she couldn't deny a flutter of something more than professional interest. "Fascinating," Zalix murmured, those cosmic eyes still fixed on hers. "Perhaps you could explain more human customs while you repair your systems. I find your species intriguing." "I should warn you," Mira said with a half-smile. "I'm not exactly a diplomat." "Good," Zalix replied. "Neither am I. Merely the only one willing to speak with humans honestly." The temperature in the corridor seemed to rise further, and Mira wasn't entirely sure it was the environmental systems to blame. Done heat exchange. The environmental control room hummed with activity as Mira worked at the central console. Zalix stood nearby, observing with curious violet eyes. "Hand me that molecular calibrator?" Mira asked, pointing to a sleek silver tool. Zalix selected it precisely, their fingers brushing Mira's as they passed it over. That same electric tingle sparked between them. "Your repair methods are impressively resourceful," Zalix noted. "Ceralians typically replace rather than repair." "Humans have always been tinkerers," Mira replied, sliding beneath the console panel. "We like fixing broken things. Is that why your species ventured into space? To fix what you perceived as broken?" Mira paused, considering. "More like we're driven to understand things. Sometimes that means taking them apart first." From her position beneath the console, she could see Zalix's graceful form silhouetted against the blinking lights of the control room. The Ceralian diplomat moved with fluid precision, examining schematics on the wall display. "Your physiology is fascinating," Zalix commented suddenly. "So adaptable despite its apparent fragility," Mira laughed, emerging from beneath the console. "I could say the same about Ceralians, though I wouldn't call that physique fragile." Zalix tilted their head, purple skin shimmering slightly in the dim light. "You observe me closely." "Professional curiosity," Mira said quickly, though it wasn't entirely true. There was something mesmerizing about Zalix, the way they moved, the resonant quality of their voice. Among my people, such observation indicates attraction, Zalix stated matter-of-factly. Mira nearly dropped her tool. Does everything translate to attraction in Ceralian culture? Not everything, but enough to make interactions with humans complex. The temperature regulation system chose that moment to kick in, sending a blast of cool air through the room. Mira wiped her brow, grateful for both the cooling and the distraction. The primary cooling system is online, she announced. Now we need to synchronize the secondary systems. I can assist, Zalix offered, moving to the adjacent console. I have some technical training. As they worked side by side, Mira became increasingly aware of Zalix's proximity. The faint, pleasant scent, reminiscent of thunderstorms and ozone. The subtle hum that seemed to emanate from their skin. You're staring again, Zalix observed, without looking up. Sorry, Mira said, embarrassed at being caught. It's just, we don't get many Ceralians on Nexus 7. And I have never worked this closely with a human before, Zalix replied. It is educational. Something in their tone made Mira glance up. Those violet eyes were studying her with unmistakable interest. The temperature regulation has improved, Zalix noted, yet your skin flushes. Is this a human response to cooling? No, Mira admitted, focusing intently on the console. It's a human response to something else entirely. Pressure points. The station alert system blared without warning, red lights pulsing through the control room. Proximity breach, level 4, the automated voice announced. Security containment protocols initiated. Mira's fingers flew over the console. Someone's triggered the emergency lockdown. The life support systems are cycling down in sections of the diplomatic wing. Sabotage? Zalix moved closer, their body tensing. Looks that way. Mira pulled up security feeds showing figures in unmarked suits planting devices at junction points. We need to get to the auxiliary command center. It's our only chance to override. As they rushed toward the service corridors, a violent tremor shook the station. Mira stumbled, and Zalix caught her effortlessly, their strong hands steadying her against their chest. For a moment, she felt the strange rhythm of what must be a Ceralian heart, faster than human. With an unusual cadence, this way, Mira said breathlessly, leading them into a narrow maintenance tunnel. They had crawled halfway through when another explosion rocked the station. The tunnel sealed automatically behind them, emergency barriers slamming into place. We're trapped, Mira realized, checking her tablet. This section is going into lockdown. The small maintenance pod at the tunnel's end was their only option. Barely larger than a closet, it contained emergency supplies and minimal life support. They squeezed inside just as the air began to thin in the tunnel. Cozy, Mira remarked nervously as the door sealed, leaving them in the soft blue glow of emergency lighting. The space was so confined that she could feel the warmth radiating from Zalix's purple skin. Your species uses humor during crisis, Zalix observed. Fascinating adaptive response. Better than panicking. Mira activated the pod's communications array. No signal. We're shielded by too much infrastructure. How long can this pod sustain us? 12 hours, maybe more with conservation. Mira tried not to think about how close they were sitting, knees touching in the cramped space. Then we have time, Zalix said calmly. Tell me about Earth while we wait. I have only read reports. As Mira described oceans and mountains, she found herself relaxing despite their predicament. Zalix listened intently, occasionally asking questions that revealed a deep curiosity about human culture. And what of human bonding rituals? Zalix asked after a while. Your literature suggests great complexity. That's putting it mildly, Mira laughed. Human relationships are notoriously complicated. Yet you seek them, despite this complexity. We do. Connection is worth the complication. Zalix was quiet for a moment. On Ceralia, bonds are formed through shared resonance, a biological compatibility that is either present or absent. And with humans? Mira asked, suddenly acutely aware of the diminishing space between them. Zalix's violet eyes seemed to darken. I have never tested such compatibility before, but I feel resonance with you, Mira Kwan. The air in the pod seemed to charge with electricity, and this time it had nothing to do with Ceralian biology. combustion. The cramped maintenance pod grew warmer as the hours passed, the life support system working overtime to accommodate 2 beings. Mira had removed her uniform jacket down to her standard-issue tank top, while Zalix seemed unbothered by the heat. "Your species regulates temperature differently," Mira observed, watching beads of moisture form on Zalix's purple skin. Not sweat, but something like condensation, glimmering like morning dew. "We absorb and release energy as needed," Zalix explained. "Your discomfort concerns me, however." Before Mira could respond, Zalix reached out, fingers hovering near her flushed cheek. "May I? I can help cool your system." At her nod, Zalix's fingertips made contact with her skin. The effect was immediate, a delicious coolness spreading from the touch points, like diving into a mountain lake on a summer day. "That's incredible," Mira breathed, instinctively leaning into the contact. "A simple matter of energy transfer," Zalix murmured, though their voice had dropped to a lower register that resonated in the small space between them. The pod's comm system crackled suddenly to life. "Chief Quan? Do you copy?" Captain Chen's voice broke through the static. Mira reluctantly pulled away from Zalix's touch to respond. "Copy, Captain. Zalix and I are sealed in maintenance pod E-17. We've neutralized the saboteurs, rogue miners from the Vega system, but the station's core is destabilizing. We need your expertise remotely." Mira's stomach dropped. "The cooling systems are failing?" "Catastrophically. We have maybe 30 minutes before meltdown," Zalix spoke up. "Cerealian physiology can withstand temperatures harmful to humans. I could access the core manually." "No," Mira said immediately. "Even Cerealians can't survive direct core exposure. We have evolved to harness energy. Mira, I may be able to stabilize it long enough for repairs." Their eyes met in the blue glow of the pod, a silent communication passing between them that transcended species differences. "There's another way," Mira said suddenly, fingers flying across her tablet. "If we reroute emergency power through the pod's systems, I can create a bypass that might stabilize the core remotely." Working together, they established the connection. As Mira initiated the sequence, the pod's lights flickered ominously. The temperature plummeted, then soared as the pod's system struggled with the energy transfer. "It's too much for the pod to handle," Mira realized with growing alarm. "But not for me," Zalix said, placing their hands on the pod's control panel. Their purple skin began to glow, veins lighting up with absorbed energy. "Zalix, stop! You'll burn out your nervous system." "Trust me," they said through gritted teeth, their voice vibrating with strain. "This is what I was made for." The pod filled with brilliant light as Zalix channeled the excess energy, their body becoming a living conductor. Mira watched in awe as the readouts stabilized, the core cooling back to safe parameters. When it was over, Zalix collapsed against her, breathing heavily. "You saved the station," Mira whispered, cradling the Cerealian against her. "You saved everyone." "We did," Zalix corrected weakly, looking up at her with those cosmic violet eyes. "Together." In that moment, surrounded by humming machinery and the aftermath of crisis, Mira did the most human thing possible. She leaned down and pressed her lips gently against Zalix's. The sensation was like nothing she'd experienced before. A spark of something electric and alive passing between them. A resonance that seemed to vibrate at a cellular level. When they parted, Zalix touched their lips in wonder. "Is this how humans show resonance?" "One of many ways," Mira whispered. "Would you like to learn more?" New orbits. The recovery efforts aboard Nexus 7 continued for days after the sabotage. The diplomatic wing had been restored to full function, with enhanced security protocols implemented throughout the station. Amidst the repairs and investigations, Mira found herself constantly seeking glimpses of purple skin and violet eyes. She found Zalix in the observation dome, gazing out at the stars, hands clasped behind their back in that distinctly Cerealian posture of contemplation. "The negotiations were successful," Zalix said without turning as Mira approached. "The mining rights have been equitably distributed." "That's good news," Mira replied, standing beside them, though I suspect it wasn't just diplomatic skill that won the day. Zalix's mouth curved into that subtle smile. Heroism does tend to create goodwill among negotiating parties. They stood in comfortable silence, watching distant stars shimmer through the transparent dome. The space between them seemed charged with unspoken possibilities. "My mission here is complete," Zalix finally said. "I am scheduled to return to Soralia tomorrow." Mira felt an unexpected hollowness in her chest. "So soon? Unless there is reason to extend my stay." Zalix turned those cosmic eyes toward her, searching. "The environmental systems could use a more thorough overhaul," Mira suggested with deliberate lightness. "Might take weeks. Is that the only reason you would have me stay?" The directness of the question was so typically Soralian that Mira couldn't help but smile. "No, there's also the matter of our compatibility testing. I believe we've only scratched the surface." Zalix moved closer, the electric field that surrounded them making the fine hairs on Mira's arms stand up. "On Soralia, when resonance is discovered, it is not abandoned lightly. Earth has similar philosophies." Mira reached out, tracing the luminescent patterns that appeared on Zalix's forearm at her touch. "Though I'm not sure how the Council would feel about a human-Soralian liaison." "They will adapt," Zalix said simply, "as we have adapted to each other." "Speaking of adaptation," Mira said, pulling a small device from her pocket. "I made you something." Zalix examined the sleek metallic object curiously. "It's a subspace communicator," Mira explained. "If you do return to Soralia, we can maintain contact across any distance." "You anticipate separation," Zalix observed, a hint of disappointment in their resonant voice. "I anticipate challenges," Mira corrected gently, "but I also anticipate finding ways to overcome them." Zalix closed their eyes briefly, a Soralian gesture of profound acceptance. When they opened them, the silver flecks in their violet irises seemed to dance. "Then I shall request reassignment as permanent liaison to Nexus 7, they declared. "Our worlds have much to learn from each other." Mira stepped forward, eliminating the last space between them. "And where should we begin this cultural exchange program?" Zalix's hands found her waist with newfound confidence. "I believe humans have a saying about beginning at the beginning." As their lips met again, Mira felt that now familiar resonance building between them, a harmony of impossible biology and improbable connection that somehow, against all odds, made perfect sense. The stars wheeled slowly above them as they remained entwined. Two beings from distant worlds, finding a new orbit around each other, proof that even in the vast coldness of space, warmth could always be found where least expected.